Welcome to Retire Smart Maryland. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Prashant Sabapathi of Elite Income Advisors. And to our viewers at home, do you follow any of the rules of thumb when you're planning for your retirement? We're going to talk about what some of those rules of thumb are on today's show. Prashant, how are you today?
I'm doing so well, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. And this is going to be a really fun show. We all talk about rules of thumb.
Yeah.
And I know the first one probably most people have heard of before, but let's talk about the rule of 100. What is it, and does it still apply today?
Yeah, this is an old retirement planning rule of thumb, and what the rule of 100 is you would take 100 minus your age, and that would be the percentage of your assets, of your net worth, that should be subjected to the risk of the stock market. So if I'm a 65-year-old, let's say I'm getting ready to retire, I'm 65 years old, I would take 100 minus 65, and that would be 35. And so if I have $1 million of net worth, 350,000 of that investable net worth I'd have fluctuating in something like the market. But what that also means is that I should, if I'm following the rule of thumb, have about 65% of my net worth somewhere totally safe so that when the markets go crazy, I cannot lose.
Okay.
Now, as for is it still applicable? Of course, everyone's situation is a little bit different. And so you do have to put together a customized plan. But what we're finding, probably on a more anecdotal basis, is that the folks that follow the rule of 100 and do so in a very intentional way, where that safe money bucket is actually being used to spin off the retirement income that they need, those are the folks that we find tend to be more comfortable in retirement. Because when you have safety, you have security, and most importantly, when you have a paycheck that you can depend on, I think that just improves the outcome. I say it all the time. The higher the income, the better the outcome when we get to retirement. I think that's so important. Let's figure out how to protect your money, and let's figure out how to turn that protected money into a lifetime of reliable income.
Prashant, thank you so much. That's the rule of 100, but what about the 4% rule? And is there a better alternative to the 4% rule?
Yeah, this one's really interesting. In my opinion, it used to be a really good rule of thumb. And the 4% rule said that when I retired, I would take whatever retirement savings that I had, let's say it was $1 million, I would invest that in a balanced portfolio. Maybe it was a 60% stock, 40% bond-based portfolio, and I'd simply withdraw 4% of my retirement day balance each and every year while adjusting my annual withdrawals for inflation. And I think it used to be a really good rule of thumb, but then we went through 2022. And 2022 was a harsh realization for, I think, a lot of folks. And the reason for that is we saw stocks go down in 2022. Now, they've since recovered, which has been a good thing. But the interesting thing is that bonds also got hammered in 2022. In some cases, some types of bonds actually lost more money than stocks.
Incredible.
Cynthia, does that make any sense from what we've been taught in the past? If you look back at 2008, if we had just moved all of our money from stocks to bonds in 2008, we would have come out of that relatively unscathed.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people tried to use that same philosophy as we were prepping for 2022. And the people that actually took less risk traditionally are the ones who actually lost more money in 2022.
Oh my gosh.
And I think that really changed the retirement planning landscape. I think it changed it forever. And I think it's reshaped the way that people have to think about their money and think about their rate of withdrawal. And so I'm not a big believer in the 4% rule. I think that there's safer, more reliable ways to generate income that could be actually much higher than 4%, believe it or not. And I think the more reliability we have, the more comfort we're going to end up feeling when we get to retirement.
100%. Let's talk a little bit about the rule of 72. And why does it matter? The rule of 72.
So the rule of 72 is effectively what kind of rate of return we're going to have to earn on our investments to double our money, right? So what we do is we take 72 divided by our rate of return, and that's going to give us the number of years it would take at that stated rate of interest to double our money. So let's say our portfolio was earning, I don't know, let's use a number. Let's just say 7.2%. Let's make the math easy, right?
Okay.
So our portfolio is earning 7.2% per year. All that means is it's going to take us 10 years to double that money. Okay. But here's where it's misleading, in my opinion. The math is relatively simple, but averages can be really misleading, right? 7.2%, what is the likelihood that for the next 10 years in a row, I'm going to earn exactly 7.2% reliably each and every year?
Yeah.
We're probably going to have some years where we do really well, and then inevitably we're going to go through market downturns where the market actually loses money. Now, I might have averaged out to the 7.2%, but what happens if I'm withdrawing income during one of those down years?
Exactly.
I think that's really the bigger issue. So the rule of 72, it's a good math equation, and everyone should kind of know what it generally means, but I don't think that's a great way to assess whether or not we're in a really secure position when we get to retirement. I think you should have a written income plan in place, one sheet of paper that you should be able to look at and determine, am I going to have all the paychecks I need after taxes, after adjusting for cost of living, to make sure that I have the most comfortable and fulfilling life. That's what I think true security is about, is having a written plan in place that you can rely on
100%.
the tough times.
Absolutely, Prashant. Our final rule of thumb, let me ask you about this, the rule of 80%, the 80% rule. Is it still applicable today, 80%?
So the 80% rule said that when we retire, we should be able to live on 80% of the income that we had while we were working. Cynthia, I've talked about this on so many of these programs before. If it was me planning for retirement, and I help people with this every single day, and my team does as well, I don't want to give up the 20%.
No.
When I get to
who would?
retirement, I don't want to take a 20% haircut on my income. In fact, what most of our clients want is they actually want to increase their income in retirement. They want more spending money when they get to retirement to do all the things that they never had the opportunity to do because the job was in the way. So personally, look, everyone's got their opinion. I respect everybody's opinion, but my opinion and the clients that tend to be the best fit for us are the ones that are philosophically aligned with the way that we plan. And to us, we want to get the highest level of income possible that we can get while planning in a safe type of way. That's what we're all about. That's why we named the firm Elite Income Advisors, because your retirement is all about the income. Folks, if you have not put together that income plan, or maybe you've worked with an advisor for years, but they haven't helped you figure out a distribution strategy to ensure that your income never runs out, pick up the phone and give us a call. We're going to open up the phone lines. It's 833-308-5200. Now, when you dial that number, you'll be able to claim a spot in our team's calendar. When you come in to visit, it's totally free of cost, and there is no obligation to become a client. It's just a conversation. We're going to sit down for about an hour. We're going to talk about what's important to you. We're going to get to know you. And more importantly, you're going to get to know us. Through our interaction, we're going to help you design that Retire Smart roadmap. And we're going to very quickly find out whether or not we're even the right fit for each other. A lot of us we'll find that we are a good fit. Some of you will find that maybe we're not the right match. Whatever that ends up being, we're going to help you put together that income for life plan. We'll do our part, but you also have to do yours. You need to pick up the phone, give us a call, or take out your smartphone and scan the QR code at the bottom of your screen. You'll be able to claim that spot in our calendar sometime real soon.
Prashant, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, the number to call is 833-308-5200, 833-308-5200. You've worked your entire life to get to the retirement years, and you deserve to have peace of mind in retirement. This is completely complimentary. Let Prashant and his team get to know you and design the Retire Smart roadmap that's going to suit your needs at no cost, no obligation. 833-308-5200. Are you asking yourself, I wonder what other people are concerned about right now when it comes to retirement? I'm going to ask Prashant that very same question when we return.
having a true written financial plan provides peace of mind in a way that nothing else really can.
In our job, we want to make sure that we give it to our clients the guaranteed income stream for the rest of their lives, so they don't have to worry about what's going to happen.
As a specialist in distribution, we're helping people make sure that their money is going to last for the rest of their lifetime so that they never run out of income, and minimize that tax consequence along the way, and then help transfer that to their heirs in the most tax efficient way.
I think the most important to me in the financial planning is first of all, you need to understand what the client wants. It's all about the client.
So much of what we do at Elite Income Advisors surrounds helping people understand exactly where their paycheck is going to come from, how much it's going to be, and making sure that, most importantly, that it increases through their retirement.
Welcome back to Retire Smart Maryland. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Prashant Sabapathi of Elite Income Advisors. In this segment, Prashant, I would love to spend some time talking about not what your clients are concerned about right now, because I know they have peace of mind, but for people that are coming in for the very first time, overall, what are some things that people are really, really concerned about? I know probably taxes would be one.
Taxes is definitely one. I think we all have to look at how tax rates potentially increasing could affect our net income in retirement. And to me, there's a really vicious domino effect that happens here. So let's just go back to what we talked about in that first segment, right? Let's say we were following the 4% rule. So we have $1 million, we're taking out $40,000 a year. That $40,000 is comfortable for us to live on. Great.
Okay.
But let's say now tax rates go up in the future. So you were planning to take $40,000, but now when taxes go up, $40,000 isn't the same as it was years ago when taxes were lower, right?
Very true.
And so what do I need to do to compensate for higher taxes? I need to withdraw more money. I'm no longer withdrawing 4%. Maybe I have to withdraw 5% just to get to the same quality of lifestyle. Well, Cynthia, it's just common sense. If I take more money out of my portfolio, isn't there a higher degree of probability that I might run out of money one day?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, right? And so now what I'm forced to do is, realizing that I'm taking more money out, I now have to grow this money at a faster rate, which means I might have to do what? I might have to actually take more risk with my money.
Yes.
Which is totally counterintuitive to everything that we've been taught in terms of how to lower your risk when you get to retirement. So now I'm in this vicious cycle where tax rates went up. I need more income to live the way that I want. I might have to take more risks to grow my nest egg. And then what happens? The market crashes. And heaven forbid that market crash while we are taking money out. This is exactly, in my opinion, how people put themselves at unnecessary risk of running out of money.
Yes.
Okay. And so taxes and financial planning, they're not separate anymore. In my opinion, these things have to go together. If you're working with an advisor that has not talked to you about building a tax-free source of income in retirement through the use of something like a Roth conversion, I think you have to seriously question whether or not you are working with the correct specialist. Folks, your tax plan and your financial plan are more integrated than you probably know. You need to get a review of that, and you need to do it immediately, because what happens when tax rates go up? It might be too late to do anything different at that point in time. If there's something you could do to put yourself in a better position, wouldn't you like to know about it right now?
Absolutely.
That's what we talk about with our folks every single day.
Sure. And a lot of people are probably coming in and they're asking yourself, Prashant, my main fear right now is I don't want to outlive my money. How do I make sure that I don't?
Look, I think it comes back to income.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'll say it again, it's higher the income, better the outcome when we get to retirement, right? And so if we don't want to run out of money, let's make sure that we have stable, reliable sources of foundational income that is not subjected to the crazy ups and downs that we've seen in the market over the last 4 or 5 years, dating back to the COVID pandemic, right? And then 2022, we saw another market decline. So to me, a lot of our retirement problems can be solved by getting our income in retirement as high as possible, We want to do that as quickly as possible, but most importantly, I think we need to do that as safely as possible. The higher the income, the better the outcome is going to be when we get there.
Absolutely. Prashant, a lot of people are switching jobs right now.
Yeah.
Perhaps they are getting a different venue of what they want to do, and they're taking a different journey, if you will. A lot of questions surround the 401k. People are wondering, what do I do with my 401k when I switch to a new position? Do I leave it there? Do I roll it over? What guidance do you have for those folks?
You know, I think a lot of advisors would automatically tell you, you should just go ahead and roll over that 401k. Okay. To me, I think that's a little premature. To me, I think that at this stage of the game, when you're really getting serious about getting ready for retirement, every financial decision that you make should have a clear-cut purpose behind it. I've shared on the show for years now that I grew up in a medical family. So if I can use just a medical analogy real quick. Cynthia, when we take prescription medication, right? Prescriptions have side effects, don't they?
Of course they do. They all do.
They all do. And then when you take multiple medications at the same time,
yes,
they interact with each other.
Absolutely.
And so every financial decision that you've made over the years is a financial prescription. It has side effects, and it has interactions with all the other prescriptions, financial prescriptions that you've taken. At some point, we need to coordinate all your financial prescriptions together. And so whether or not you should roll over that 401k or keep it where it is depends on what are we trying to accomplish and what are the side effects and interactions that financial decision will have on all of the other financial decisions you've made in the past. And I think the only way to properly figure that out is by having a true written plan in place where we can evaluate the upsides and the downsides of making such a huge decision, quite frankly, because it's the type of thing where you don't want to make a mistake.
Yes.
And in order to not make a mistake, I think you have to do enough diligence on the front end of that decision-making process. I think the trouble and the challenge for a lot of people is that they don't know how to properly do the diligence.
Yes.
And that's why firms like mine and ours exist.
Absolutely.
This is something that our team, we have a great team of specialists, you know, Ozzy, Nick, Connor, John. You come in to visit with us, we're going to help you figure out how those interactions and side effects are going to affect your retirement plan.
Most definitely. One of the other things that I want to talk to you, Prashant, if someone is making the decision to cash it out and they are under 59 and a half, talk a little bit about what the tax implications could be, because I know it's going to tie in directly with what we have for testmytaxbill.com.
Yeah.
Talk how those two things can kind of go hand in hand to assist someone.
Yeah, look, if you're under the age of 59 and a half and you have an individual retirement account, that's a pre-tax IRA. So all that money is before taxes. You haven't paid any taxes on it. If you withdraw that money before the age of 59 and a half in an early withdrawal situation, you will have to pay income tax on it. But furthermore, you're actually going to incur an early withdrawal penalty. Now, as of this recording, that is a 10% added penalty for accessing that money prior to 59 and a half. So think about that. We're going to pay 10% as a penalty, and then we're going to pay the income tax on that withdrawal as well. That is a devastating amount of taxes, in my opinion, and penalties that we're going to have to pay. It's the exact type of thing that erodes your nest egg unnecessarily. And I think this is why it's so important to have an emergency fund in place and make sure that we have wiggle room built into our spending plan. And then lastly, you mentioned it, Cynthia, which is we have to understand how the tax code works and how the threat of rising taxes could impact our retirement. We created this awesome resource website just for our viewing audience out there. It is testmytaxbill.com. I talk about it on the radio. I talk about it on TV all the time. Testmytaxbill.com. I want you to enter that into your smartphone browser right now. Go put in the balances that you have in pre-tax retirement accounts. There's a really cool slider there where you can slide the future tax rate, and you play around with the tax rate. And what the report is going to show you is a projection of how much your retirement tax bill could look like. And it'll show you a side-by-side comparison to show you how transitioning that pre-tax retirement account into a tax-free Roth IRA, how much that could actually save you potentially in retirement taxes. It's such a cool calculator. It's totally free of cost. You just have to visit testmytaxbill.com. You can play around with it. And by the way, you can use that calculator as many times as you want. We put the resource out there for the community to understand what their retirement taxes are going to look like.
I love that, Prashant. Thank you so much. Again, that's testmytaxbill.com. testmytaxbill.com. If you're wondering what your current tax liability is currently today and what it could be if you make some changes, don't miss the opportunity to go to testmytaxbill.com. If you'd like to schedule that complimentary consultation with Prashant and the team, please call into 833-308-5200, or you can grab your smartphone, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. We're going to take a very short commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some common retirement planning mistakes and how you can avoid them. Stay tuned.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter, the one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Retire Smart Maryland. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Prashant Sabapathi of Elite Income Advisors. And in this segment, we're going to talk about some common retirement planning mistakes and, most importantly, how you can avoid those. Prashant, one of the things that we talk about, of course, on the show is having a written plan for retirement. But one of our top mistakes that people make, not having a written retirement plan.
I think this is a huge one, and I think a lot of people think they have a real plan in place, but really what they are looking at is just their investment statements, right? So you have a 401k statement, you might have a Roth IRA or a thrift savings plan, and every quarter or every month when you get that statement, you see how much money you gained or how much money you lost. But very rarely on that statement does it ever tell you how much money you can withdraw each and every month, account for the taxes, account for rising cost of living, and understand when you're actually going to run out of money. When you can answer that question, then you'll know that you have a real retirement plan in place. And then when you layer in how taxes are going to be affecting your income, when you layer in things like healthcare, which I know we're going to talk about in a second here, you layer in a legacy plan, right? When you're gone, where's all your money going to go? Whoever receives it, how much tax are they going to owe? If you haven't talked about these things, or if you don't have this written out somewhere, I would argue you probably don't have a real written plan in place. You have different elements of it, but you really need to coordinate it together.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it, Prashant, but the other thing that people fail to do is they underestimate healthcare costs. They don't plan properly for that. Talk a little bit about that.
Look, I think most people's expectations that I talk to anyway are that when I get to age 65 and I transition onto Medicare, my expectation typically is that the cost of my healthcare in retirement should go down, right? And I think that's a reasonable thing to assume. But what we're finding is if you've done a great job saving money, maybe you've accumulated $750,000 or $1 million or $2 million or more, what you're going to be subjected to one day is the required minimum distribution. And so how does that play into healthcare, right? The two things seem totally unrelated. Well, the required minimum distribution is a forced distribution. It adds to your income. And then your Medicare Part B premium is actually based on your modified adjusted gross income from 2 years prior. So hypothetically, my 2025 Medicare premium is based on my modified adjusted gross income from 2023.
Wow.
And so the higher my modified adjusted gross is, the more I actually pay for my Medicare Part B premium. This is something that's called IRMA, which stands for Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. And you would not believe the plans that we've put together where people have saved $2, $3, $4 million and they think, hey, I've done the right thing my entire life. I've been so diligent about saving money, only to find out that their Medicare cost goes up as a result of their proper saving.
Wow.
And that is almost like a heartbreaking thing to go through, to say, hey, I've done the right thing for decades, and now I'm being penalized in the form of a higher premium as a result. And so, look, if you've done a great job saving money, I commend you. But now the next step is making sure that those savings will not increase the cost of your healthcare. I think a lot of people don't even know where to start with this.
It's true.
This is a conversation that you should really have with a professional.
100%.
Real quick, can we talk about long-term care?
I would love to.
Okay, I know we only have like a minute left in the show, but I've shared my story for years, right? When my mom was 57 years old, she was diagnosed with dementia. She passed away. And at the time that she passed away, by the time she passed away, we were spending $10,000 a month on her care at home. I was talking with my dad the other day and my brother. I think we estimated that over the course of her diagnosis, she had dementia for 9 years. We spent something, our family as a whole, spent something like $950,000 out of pocket.
Oh my gosh.
To take care of her.
Wow.
And, you know, I'm fortunate. I'm blessed to be in the situation I am in, where, you know, I grew up around medical professionals. So my family kind of knew how to handle it. And thank goodness we had the resources to handle it. But I oftentimes think about the people who don't have that plan in place.
Right.
What would you do? Heaven forbid you have to incur $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month of added cost to take care of an assisted living or a nursing home. How would that impact your retirement? Folks, if that happens to you, you're gonna wanna make sure that you have that written plan in place. Pick up the phone, last opportunity for today's program to get that retirement review done. It's 833-308-5200. You can pull out that smartphone and scan this QR code. Added bonus, if you visit retiremaryland.com, it's at the bottom of your screen, retiremaryland.com. I'm gonna give you a totally free copy of my book. It's called Fiscal Health, Retirement Wealth. It's your prescription for income generation, tax management, and financial peace of mind.
Prashant, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call, 833-308-5200. Be safe, be happy, and be blessed.